Let me kick off. Generally, my role is that of a black sheep, which is everybody comes and talks about digital initiatives, digital programs. I'm the person who comes and says, go a little careful, go a little easy, right? But that's because I talk about cybersecurity and what it's all about, right? But today my job's a little bit easier. I think that's because we had a couple of presentations. We had the previous presentation, which Kaushik and Zishan did, sort of operationalized cybersecurity, right? It put various components of cybersecurity. They talked about a next generation SOC, they talked about application testing, they talked about forensics and operationalizing the whole thing. We also had an interesting presentation on data privacy by, if I recall right, it was Abhilash, right? So that's going to make my presentation a little more simpler. But prior to that, I'd just like to take a couple of minutes to talk to you about OpenText, the organization. Okay. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to talk to you about OpenText, what do we do, and who we are. I'm going to talk to you about OpenText credentials in the Indian government space, the kind of work that we have done with central government ministries and state governments. And then I'll talk to you about cybersecurity, but the approach I'll take is slightly different. I'll approach this from a holistic perspective, what the issues are, and if you need to have a sort of a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy, then what is it that you need to add, the building blocks of cybersecurity, right? And then I'll talk to you about OpenText and what is it that we do in cybersecurity. Now, a lot of your faces here are familiar, but I've worked with you before, but I've worked using a different hat, right? So we've been in such conferences earlier, but as we were representing Micro Focus. Today I represent OpenText, but my job hasn't changed. Explain, in January 2021 of 2023, OpenText acquired all of Micro Focus's assets, right? So today, with the existing business, we are all now part of OpenText. Now, if I look at OpenText, we are a Canadian-based company, $6 billion in revenue, 25,000 employees. A lot of the research and development that happens of OpenText happens in India, right? And you see that we are heavily invested in R&D. Close to 40% of our workforce is focused towards development. Now, because a large percentage of this is based out of India, that helps us qualify for making India. Now, if you talk about what we do at OpenText, when you build your digital program and you build the whole stack, everything that comes around the stack is what we think the market. Right? So if you want to digitize your content, if you want to digitize your experience both internally and your citizens, if you want to, the platform on which you develop your applications, the platform on which you test your applications, the platforms that you use to deploy your applications securely, right? That's what OpenText brings to the market. We also have full-fledged analytics and AI solutions. From a go-to-market perspective, we've been innovating. Our focuses are digital, our focus is cloud, and our focus is AI. Right? So we do have AI already embedded in a few of our products. I'm going to demonstrate to you how we have included AI as part of our cybersecurity products. But what we're also bringing in is generative AI, and you will see over the next 6 months, our products in ADM, in digital operations, and cybersecurity will have the next level, next generation of AI also inbuilt into our products. I'll now talk to you about the credentials that we have. We work very closely with the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Defense, Power, Railways. We also work closely with the Ministry of External Affairs, Home Affairs. Now, when I talk of engagement, it's just not that we work with them. Right? We have our solutions deployed and in production in some of the ministries for almost greater than 5 years. Right? So we've been working with them for quite some time. Now, when I look at state governments, we have a similar engagement. We're very thankful to MPSCDC for hosting us today, and also our solutions run as part of your shop. We work closely with the Rajasthan government, Bihar, The Odisha STC has our solutions running. The south states of Tamil Nadu, AP, Karnataka all have our solutions deployed and running as part of it. As you see, we've been engaged in various projects, whether it's CCTLS, CCTV, it's the APDRP, SPC. We have experience of deploying solutions in post office projects. Now I'll move to cyber security. I'm not going to go into the construct of this, but the primary point here is this. When you take a digital program to the market, right, it can either be focused internally or it can be focused towards citizens and trying to give services to citizens. Your building block consists of various components. You will have your application, you have your servers, you have your storage, you have your network, and surrounding this you have various other subcomponents too. Right? You have your virtualization layer, you have your operating system, you have your access devices, and your access devices will have their own operating systems and thousands. And you will have one program, the program becomes 100 programs, and you have different departments running multiple programs. What this essentially is doing is that it's exploding exponentially the digital, the attack surface on the front face that you have. Now, unfortunately, each one of these points come with potential vulnerabilities. And these vulnerabilities come not by design, right? They are there. They can either be because of the way the application is coded, it can be because of the business logic that the application is using. Sometimes it can just be the way the application is implemented, right? If you don't have a secure configuration. Sometimes it can be as simple as the person who's implementing the application leaves open ports on. Sometimes it can be as simple as the person who's implemented has not changed the default passwords, right? So all of these constitute a vulnerability. And when you have vulnerabilities, there is always a potential of a threat actor attacking, exploiting, and creating damage, right? And we've seen that when an attack does happen, the overall effect is damage. Now, what I'm talking, is it theoretical, is it academic? Unfortunately, no. Previous presenter did talk about statistics of cyber attacks in India. This is from the government of India, stated numbers. They're close to 14 lakh cyber attacks that happen in the country. And this has been over the last couple of years. And the attack of government agencies has been doubling over the last few years. There are two incidents here I've talked about. I'm not going to go into detail. But if you look at both AIMS and CDSL, right? AIMS is a ransomware attack, and it pretty much brought down a part of the operations of AIMS for almost a week. And CDSL, it was a malware attack and pretty much brought down operations for a day. Right? So if you look at this, cybersecurity is a clear and present danger, and it has to be addressed. Now, what are the most common kind of threats? Instead of hundreds and thousands of threats, I've just put the most common attacks here. Malware, amongst malware, the most common one that you're seeing, and which is really threatening, is ransomware. Your phishing is a way of entering into the organization. DDoS attacks to bring your home systems down, and your rescue injection and cross-site scripting. Now, so how do you plan a strategy where your digital surface is increasing, and there is always a pressure for you to take new programs into the market? There's always a pressure on that. How do you then look at defining a cybersecurity strategy? Unfortunately, there is no single answer. It's not a point problem, and there is no point solution. It has to be an approach, it's the way you think about it. Yesterday we were having a discussion that security has to come in by design. So it's just the way you look at it. Now I'm just going to give a few building blocks which are absolutely essential. My first part's not on this slide, but it's absolutely critical. Which is, if you don't know what you're protecting, then you're shooting in the dark. Right? So you need to have clear visibility of what you're protecting. That's where your asset management program comes in place. When you know what you're protecting, you need to have a baseline of protection. You need to have a baseline of secure configuration. That's where your configuration management comes in place. And once that baseline configuration is in place, that cannot be changed without a change management program. Then if you don't do that, you're asking for trouble. There's a second tool in the box, which is patch management and vulnerability management. So you need to have a rigorous vulnerability management program, which you either run every 3 months or 6 months. And the vulnerabilities which are identified, you need to have a patch management program which works along with that, which is patching those vulnerabilities. Now, would you have patches for all vulnerabilities? Ideal answer is yes, but the real answer is no. You wouldn't have, right? So the patches would always come with a delay. You get it 3 months, 6 months. Some of them may not have a viable patch, so you would need to then have a workaround. But what you would achieve with these 4 critical components is that one, you get visibility to your attack surface, and 2 is you're able to manage your attack surface, you're able to reduce it. And then what you do is you add 6 other components to manage that, to protect and defend. The first one, network. I'm not going to go too much into details, but there are multiple technologies that you have, the firewall, your IPS, your IDS, your content filters. One thing that you must do is network segmentation. What that helps you is that even if an attack happens, your attack is confined to that segment and doesn't spread to your entire organization. You have next generation EDRs in place that you can use to protect your endpoints. Application security is a new frontier. Why? Because if you look at the new age attacks, earlier this all happened OSI layer 4 and below, but they're now happening 5, 6, and 7. So it becomes absolutely important for you to protect your applications. When I talk about protecting, you can start doing it right at the code level. And then you look at data. I say 3 things to data: encrypt, encrypt, and encrypt. Any data at rest has to be encrypted. The 5th one is identity. Identity is why? Because everybody is now moved into a remote way of working. And the number of touch points which I was talking about in my previous slide, each one of that is an identity. Whether it's an end device, it's a user, it's an application, it's a service, everything is an identity. Right? And if you don't federate your identity, no matter what policy you put in place, will not be operational or effective. Now, all of these are technologies that you use to protect yourself. Now, having done this, is the job done? Again, unfortunately, no, because no matter what layers of protection you put, the attacks are still going to happen. So what you would then need to do is you need to have a defense mechanism. You need to have a security operations center which gives you a consolidated view of everything that's happening in your organization. So when an attack does happen, the primary objective is to contain the attack and contain the damage. Right? So if an attacker is in your systems for 30 minutes, he can do an X percentage of damage. But if he's going to go there or be there unnoticed for a week, then the damage will be exponential, right? So that's the primary job that a SOC does. So these are the primary building blocks of a cybersecurity strategy. Now, how does OpenText support you here? We have solutions for every one of those 6 domains. We have ArcSight, which is a true next generation end-to-end SOC. We have Voltage, which is a data privacy solution. We have Fortify, which is an end-to-end application security solution. And there's NetIQ, which is an end-to-end identity and access management solution. We also have a network packet capture solution, which is Brigada, and we'll be launching an EDR solution over the next couple of months. What I'm showcasing here it's not just capability, but if you look at ArcSight, in India we have more than 100 customers who manage their stocks using ArcSight. I have 400 customers where the security operations are managed by one of our MSP partners and all managed in ArcSight. If I look at Fortify, we have more than 100 customers in the country. NetIQ, we have large government customers, more than 50 of them. And we have some large implementations of data privacy solutions in smart cities, right? So the point I'm making here is that we have the capability and the experience of deploying cybersecurity solutions across all these 4 domains. How does this actually help you? It actually helps you against not only protecting but also defending against the threats I talked about earlier. So if you look at Voltage, because it's encrypting your primary data, if you have a ransomware attack, it pretty much limits the entire scope of that attack. If you look at NetIQ, multi-factor authentication, there is a phishing attack and there is a compromise in the system, it pretty much negates that. If you look at SQL injection, this is where most of the data exfiltration attack happens. With Fortify, that entire vulnerability is taken away because Fortify is going to pinpoint what's that snippet of code that you have in your application which is lending itself for an SQL attack. and Oxide pretty much would identify a DDoS attack as it happens in real time on your systems. Right? So that's what we bring to market. These are my product slides. I'm not going to go in detail with this. But primarily, if you look at Oxide, it's a truly next generation SOC. It has the legacy part of SOC, which is the log management and the correlation layer, which is what the industry calls SIM. But it also has the next generation platforms, which is the AI-enabled user and entity behavior analytics, and it has the automation layer. Right? It also has a security data lake at the underlying layer and integrated UI on the top. Just to show you how powerful the system is, and I'm hoping my tables are still on. Okay, so it's okay, don't worry. I think we're short on time, so we'll let that be. I just wanted to show you the way Oxide looks, where in a single view, you get a geo. The GUI pretty much tells you all the traffic that's coming in and out of your data center, and the attacks happen as they happen in real time. Now, the industry talks about MITRE. MITRE is where it pretty much documents all known tactics and techniques of all known attacks. And what we've done is we've integrated MITRE into the solution so that when you put your rules, your protection rules in place, the solution actually tells you what tactics and techniques you've done and what you're open, so that when you go into the next round of rule creation, you know what to do. So I'm going to move on to 45. So when you look at application, right, I did here in the previous presentation of vulnerability analysis and how you protect the applications. The industry primarily started by doing what we call dynamic testing. Is that once your application is built, you then look at exploiting that application and then list out what the vulnerabilities are. Industry then moved into what we call a shift-left strategy. A shift-left strategy, where we started then looking at the code itself, and then it started looking at vulnerabilities in the code. And now it's moved all the way to the developer. So right at the IDE level, there's integration of these tools. You also have mobile testing. You are now using open source content as part of your applications. So you need to do open source testing. You need to do API testing. Now what I'm talking about is not that all these scans are different. All these scans need to happen on every application that you're doing, because each your application has these components. So what 45 offers is a single solution using which you can do all these scans, get a single view of all the vulnerabilities in your application. So when you're managing a program, you can look at one application and look at what the vulnerabilities you have. Let's say your program has 4 or 5 applications, you can zoom out and then look at a program level what are the vulnerabilities you have. And if you have a department which has got 100 programs, you can actually zoom out and look at what are the vulnerabilities to ensure as a department in terms of the number of applications you have in production. In that way, it's a very powerful tool for managing what your digital footprint is and also governing it. I'm just going to give a quick overview of the other 2 solutions. NetIQ, which is an end-to-end identity and access management solution. I think the critical thing it does is it federates identities. So when you have multiple applications, multiple users, multiple objects, as I said earlier, it's absolutely important for you to federate all your identities, because only when you federate can you have a uniform policy that's put across it. So that's what NetIQ does. It's Identity Manager. You can implement access management using role-based access control. Multi-factor authentication, we offer close to 24 different types of multi-factor authentication. You can chain them, you can have risk-based type of authentication, depending on your business. For critical applications, we also do privilege access management, and we also do identity governance. Lastly, I touch about voltage. I think the need for data privacy with the new data protection bill that's come in place is going to change. I think it's still early stages, so I don't want to jump on what the probable solutions could be. I think there's a lot that we will need to analyze and see what the right solutions in the market could be. But what voltage does is it does 2 things. It does data discovery and it also does data protection. But the way we approach data protection is different. Whilst we do traditional encryption, we do it without generating multiple keys. The biggest issue with encryption is you need to store thousands of keys, you need to store multiple copies of it, and you also need to refresh the keys again and again. With voltage, there is no key management. Every key is generated on the fly in the event of an encryption or decryption, and once the event is done, the keys are disposed. Right? So there's no problem with key. Second, we don't encrypt the data, we encrypt only the fields. And it's a format preserving encryption. So whether the data is at rest, in motion, or even in use, it stays encrypted. Okay, I'm going to skip this slide. So this is a quick view of the cybersecurity customers that we have in the government space. Outside, we have it deployed at Making, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Finance, and here at the government of Madhya Pradesh. 45, we have it deployed again in Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Finance, Railways, see that. NetIQ running at NHA, here at Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and Railways. And we have Voltage, which is deployed across smart cities in Moradabad, Dehradun, Bhagalpur, and Muzaffarpur. I made this statement earlier, but I think it's very relevant, especially when you're taking digital programs to market. What does cybersecurity bring to you? How does it support you? The cybersecurity primarily helps you deliver trust and confidence in your programs. And that is what drives acceptance and adoption with systems. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thanks, Praveen. That was Praveen Patil Kulkarni, Country Manager, Security Risk and Governance, OpenText. Thanks for insightful presentation on cybersecurity aspect and how your organization is helping various government departments across the country. It was insightful, thoughtful, for sure. I request Dr. Sanjay Kolte, CEO of Pune Smart City Development Corporation. If you can come on stage for some time and hand over a small development position to Praveen Patil Kulkarni from OpenText. A huge round of applause for him.